welcome to another sparkling edition of Plank of the Week. And it's a very special Plank of the Week this week because we've got somebody here who has never been here before. We've tried many times to get him, but he's finally succumbed to the pressure. And he is, of course, the one and only Calvin Robinson. Calvin, welcome.
Thank you very much. What an introduction.
Did you have to tell him that I was going to be on?
Exactly. That was
well, do you know, some people,
come on if you're
some people seek prior approval of who they do it with.
Really?
They do.
Interesting.
But not
I have
everybody
done that
does.
on a couple of occasions.
Not everybody does. I wasn't going to suggest it was you that does that, but I mean, you know, some people get on better with other people. You know, we like to try and have a kind of synergy of personalities. Because you're here for the first time, I'd like to offer you the first plank nomination, please. And you know how it all works. You get 3 each. We pick one to carry over from last week, and then we whittle it all down, and then somebody wins right at the end.
My first plank has to be Emma Kennedy.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what she does or what she's famous for, other than being on Celebrity MasterChef.
Yeah. Isn't she one of these sort of slightly annoying people that train as a lawyer but doesn't seem to practice
I don't know,
law?
because it's these people that go on these celebrity reality TV shows without being known for anything beforehand.
Right.
But anyway...
I didn't know she was even on that, so...
She rose to prominence over Brexit for being a famous Ramona.
Yes.
She's still not gotten over it. She's got this syndrome with Brexit, bless her.
She loves talk radio, though. She blocked almost everyone who works at talk radio
this is it.
after she had a row with somebody. Yeah, she had a row with one of the presenters, I can't remember who, and she just blocked everybody.
Well, she's got derangement syndrome over Brexit. And I happened to tweet something about the vaccine. I wasn't too critical, I was just asking questions, and she did not like it because Brexit syndrome has turned into COVID syndrome.
Yeah, why is
the
that?
Fanatics, the ones with the blue hearts, FBPE in their names, they're nuts over it. You can't question it because the science cannot be questioned.
And also, isn't it amazing how all of these people are so certain about every single scientific fact that they spout,
but this is
without even
Do you think
having
it's the good person thing?
I think
you
so.
know, you're a good
The
person
virtue
if you
signal.
didn't vote Brexit, and you're a good person if you
Well, you see it now,
pro-vaccine,
don't you, on
pro-
public transport? I mean, I had to come on public transport today because I left my car here yesterday, which was a mistake, actually, but that's another story. And you can see the kind of people that are wearing masks on the bus and the kind of people that are wearing masks on the tube. And it's got nothing to do with their age. It's got nothing to do with, you know, where they're going or who they live with.
Or their risk factor.
It's everything to do with what they want you to think.
But when did this start? When did it become so divided that everything is us versus them?
2016.
You think it's Brexit?
I think so.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it's really damaged our sort of national psyche
hasn't it?
in some strange way.
Uh-oh, I destroyed our country with my vote.
You did. You should have been more careful.
But anyway,
The trouble is that we've now developed into this kind of place where nobody can disagree with each
can't.
other without falling out, which is bonkers to me.
so I had a scientist on a show at Talk Radio. I asked him some questions about the vaccine. The Fanatics went nuts about it, said I'm a vaccine denier, I'm anti-vaxxer, I'm promoting dodgy stuff that's going to kill people. And other normal folks said, thank you for asking questions, we wanted to know the answers to.
Yeah, I mean, what used to be called journalism. Ask a question because you want to know the answer.
Exactly.
As opposed to ask a question that you don't want to know the answer to, or indeed the new political game of ask a politician a question and they answer a question you didn't ask them.
Entirely.
I must say, you were very ballsy with that interview. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
If the viewers haven't seen it yet.
So did Emma Kennedy then see it and not like it?
She saw it, she didn't like it. She called me some names for daring to be, she said supposed journalist and this and that and the other. So I blocked her.
It's good to know she's still watching Talk Radio, though.
Oh, it is,
isn't it?
It is.
Can't help it.
Can't
Can't
help
tear
it.
herself away.
But these people, they never debate your points. They're always debating you as a person. So she called me names and she said, Calvin Robinson won't dare put that clip up. I'm thinking, what, the clip that I already put on my Twitter that has over 500,000 views and has been shared left, right and centre, that clip. I don't dare put that clip
Don't dare
up.
put something up which has already been broadcast
Are you
around the
crazy?
world.
But then, so I blocked her because I've got no time for this nonsense. And she said, "Oh, so supposed free speech champion blocking me."
Oh yeah,
Well,
this is the same woman who's blocked
I do
everybody from Talk Radio.
I do think it's that sort of a purpose thing, right? They've lost their sense of purpose now Brexit has been done. I mean,
it's a
apart
new
from Anna
purpose.
Soubry and Lord Adonis and things, most people have shut up
They still
on
want to
that.
rejoin it though, don't they?
Yeah, they
Same
still
type
want to
of people,
rejoin
isn't it?
it. And then she, you know, the continuation of the COVID fanaticism also. Same thing, same type of person.
Same type of person. They're deranged by it. But anyway, this idea that blocking people takes away their free speech. Like, you still have your platform.
Yeah.
You can spout your bile all day
You
long.
just don't
I
want
just
to see
don't
it.
want to listen to it.
Exactly. But people misunderstand free speech all the time, don't they? They think that
The
you
left
blocking
do.
them stops their free speech. Duh.
Like, I block
It
left,
doesn't.
right and centre. I block all day, every day. I love blocking people.
I mean, I tend to only block people who are particularly abusive.
Yeah, rude, hostile,
Or
abusive,
if they're
instant
or if
block.
they're particularly sort of, you know, relentlessly boring.
Yeah.
Because you know how some of them send you just acres and acres and acres, and you just go, mate, I'll just maybe mute you so you don't get too upset.
Not only that, they take up your feed, and it's hard when you've got a lot of followers to see all of the mentions. And I like to engage with people that are nice.
Exactly.
So I want to get rid of the hostile ones.
Yes.
I must say I did get in a bit of trouble with the animal lovers the other day.
Oh, did you?
What happened?
When I appeared on Krista's show over this pen farthing stuff.
yes.
Yes, people were very
People
upset
were very
that I would,
worked up
that
about
I would
that.
save a a human baby over a puppy. It was
Imagine that. The
it
sanctity of human
upset
life.
a lot of people. I think it's one of those moments where maybe I wasn't in touch with public opinion.
Well, I mean, I think, again, people who are very, very fond of animals to the point where they would rather rescue animals before humans don't quite get it, really, do they? I mean,
Like Kevin O'Sullivan.
Kevin, who's a colleague of mine, a good mate of mine, you know, we don't agree on everything, and that's as it should be. But I think the ridiculousness of the debate just wasn't really worthy to have. I didn't really get into it because, to be honest, I think Penn Farthing's a pretty cool guy. I think what he did was brilliant. The fact that he couldn't get more people out was down to the fact that the government's kind of paperwork kings couldn't sort it out. And so if he ends up bringing animals instead of people, that's not really his fault.
For fear of getting dragged into it, he could have taken the staff home. The reason why
he couldn't get them on the plane.
No, before.
I think it's hard to give the guy a hard time for what he did. I really do. I mean,
he's going to do it anyway. So.
Yeah.
No. Who knows exactly what happened?
Well, I don't know. Are you going to nominate for a plank and see how that goes?
No, I'm not. I'm
I
going
would.
to. You know, I said I was going to steer clear of that, and then here we go.
Well, you're the one that started
I know.
it.
I don't know what.
You're your own worst enemy. All right, well, give us your first nominee then.
Okay, so my first is Zero Tolerance.
Oh, yeah.
Which people may not have heard of. It's a Scottish charity / campaign group stuffed full of activists that is mostly taxpayer funded by the Scottish government.
Of course it is.
And their stated aim is to end violence against women perpetrated by men.
Because they don't have any tolerance.
So they don't have tolerance for domestic violence and for violence against women. Sounds good, right?
I wonder if they have tolerance for anything else. I mean, like, you know, are they zero tolerance on everything?
Okay, so they don't have tolerance of books.
Yes.
Children's books
There we are.
specifically. So this is the charity that spent God knows how many months, God knows how much taxpayers' money, asking nurseries and early years settings to conduct, an audit of their books to see if they were essentially woke enough on gender, or to see if they perpetrated stereotypes, or to see if perhaps there weren't enough female or ethnic minority or disabled characters in these books. Unsurprisingly, literally none of the bookshelves were good enough. None of them passed the test.
How many women is enough women? How many ethnic minorities is enough?
So the big one, the book that got the
most
traction,
heinous.
the most heinous of books, was Judith Kerr's The Tiger Who Came to Tea,
I love that book,
which made
personally,
the headlines
yeah.
because the co-founder of this, or the founder, director, whatever, of this organisation did a BBC Radio Scotland interview where she said that it was, I think she said, now I can't quote her word for word, but the reason why this book wasn't suitable for young children and should be looked at, more closely examined, but not necessarily banned.
Not necessarily.
So she does have a little bit of tolerance, despite the name of her campaign.
Yeah.
She said that because it had a happy ending where the father saved the day, that was essentially sexist.
Yeah.
Toxic masculinity.
Would you have
perhaps, even though
preferred
he
it
saved
if
the day.
the father had come home, opened the door, and the tiger had eaten him? Would that have been better?
Well, I think there was also a problem
Or
with
if
the
he
fact
didn't
that...
come home, that would be more.
Or just didn't have a father.
I
don't know who your father
Well, this
is.
is the thing. I was thinking, who in their right mind would think it's not a good idea for a father to save the day, considering father absence in this country? I mean...
Yes.
You know, maybe it's a good
also,
thing to
who
have
would read a
nice
children's book and
male
make
characters.
out that the bit at the end, which was quite a nice ending to a children's story, was in some way gender, you know, sort of ghastly and encouraging men to beat up women? I mean, it's madness, isn't it?
Well, yes, and
It's completely bonkers.
but the thing is, if you see this through, she says we don't need to ban it. But you know what's coming next? The nurseries who got involved in this, and they signed up to do this program. So all the teachers are on board with this. We know that already.
Oh, so they'll take it away
you
from
bang
the
on about
nursery.
the fact that, you know, critical race theory and all these different critical theories are in the schools. This is just another example of it. And
No,
all
bang on about
all the
that in a minute.
teachers are sorry. No, you go on. Sorry, no, I love it. Oh,
Welcome
that was
to
a
Plank of the
bad.
Week.
That was a
This
bad
is the kind
choice
of-
of words.
This is the kind of treatment you should expect on Plank of the Week. You know, this is the way it goes.
We get Emma instead.
No, he's away. I told you.
Sorry, I mean, you importantly raise the issue and
Yeah.
debunk some of the myths around
Endlessly.
it and make sure that Scotland just the right amount.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, I think you've done that very well.
They're my blank.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
sorry.
mean, the fact is, right, that these people, and the most important part of what you said, I think, is that they're actually subsidised by the taxpayer in Scotland.
Yes.
Because Scotland is riddled with this kind of madness, right? You know, because they've now gone into, it's going to get worse, because they've now gone into partnership with the Greens, haven't they? Nicolas Sturgeon, the woman who wants to stop COVID, has only just got out of self-isolation, because apparently she ended up being near somebody who had COVID, which for her is almost like the worst crime she could have possibly committed, because she's meant to be not going anywhere where there is COVID, isn't she?
It's all about virtue signalling. It's not about actually actions. Words not actions.
It really
first
is
lot.
incredible. It really is incredible. Well, I've got a copy, I'm pretty sure, still of the Tiger Came to Tea. I also seem to remember that they made a West End production out of it a few years ago. So I think we should resurrect that.
Well, it's probably going to be in the bestsellers now, right?
Well, as I
'Cause it
said
was all
to
over
somebody,
the papers.
it's bad news for the Gruffalo, this, isn't it? Because I think the Gruffalo's male. I'm pretty sure.
And a single
Well, they've
parent.
got an all-male cast.
And I think most of the creatures in the forest are of certainly indeterminate gender, but certainly not female, I don't think.
Well, then, that's next on the
And he's
scrap heap.
quite a big sort of brute.
That was
the
probably one
Gruffalo.
of the books they audited.
Probably.
Diversity inclusion people, honestly. They see the world through a different lens to us, don't they?
Can you really, I mean, can you take any of these people
No,
seriously?
of course you can't.
It's
They don't
mad,
take
isn't it?
themselves
It's just an
seriously.
industry.
Yeah.
It's like, right, we've solved I don't know, actual violence
Yeah.
against women. Let's
That's it.
let's look at the
This
books.
is the problem. We're too privileged. Our lives are too good that they're
Yeah.
finding problems that don't exist.
Well, this is the thing, and I'm going to say Extinction Rebellion are my first nominees because they've been demonstrating in and around London for the last week and a bit.
Yep.
They prevented me from getting home last night. Not enough for them to have turned up outside our building and tried to stop me from getting to lunch. They then tried to stop me from getting home from lunch, which was quite a lot later. About 7
Oh, this was
o'clock.
your lunch with your secret journalist.
The secret
Oh.
journalist, yes, with the necklace. Not that secret, really. But we were fully represented with all genders, I can tell you. But yeah, so I thought I made the mistake, classic error. You only need to make one error. And I was in this cab going home, and I said to the guy, it's a bit like that scene from When Harry Met Sally, I think it is, you know, when she's in the cab and every time she gets in the cab she tells him which way to go.
Yeah, I
you know,
love
don't
that.
go down 9th Avenue because it's always busy at this time. It was like that. I felt a bit like, you know, Sally in this particular moment. And I said, don't go over Waterloo Bridge because if you do, and that then is too far west because I live sort of down towards Canary Wharf, and I said I'd rather be, you know, crossing the river a bit later on. So I said, why don't you go to London? And we had this conversation, and he was a really nice guy, and he said, I said, why don't you just go over Tower Bridge? That'd be fine. And then we get to Tower Bridge, and they literally just shut it. And once you're there, you then can't go anywhere else.
That's
because
your
you're
fault for backseat driving.
Well, it is. And so we were then stuck on commercial roads, everything east of there to basically the Blackwall Tunnel. I know this is a bit specific if you're not from London, but it was just gridlock.
This was yesterday.
Yesterday evening.
My dad was stuck at
Total
Blackwall Tunnel
gridlock.
or whatever it's
Yeah.
called for about 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, the road was not moving, and the amount of pollutant that must have been pumping out into the atmosphere because these bozos for Extinction Rebellion were having a tea party, right? With some ridiculous named tea.
Did you see that Greta Thunberg has said that Scotland
Yeah.
isn't a...
I mean, who does she think she is? She's already told the world that Britain is a liar when it comes to carbon capture, and the fact is that we're not any longer doing anything other than clever carbon accounting. So when Boris Johnson says, oh, by the way, we've reduced our emissions by 40%, she says, no, you're a liar, which I think is a bit rude, really. For
She used to
somebody like
wind her
that.
neck in, you know.
She really does. She's now having to go at Scotland, who are actually holding a climate conference. And
What's
this
she
is
saying
why.
about Scotland?
Well, she says Scotland is not a good country for climate.
She said they're not a world leader. So Nicolas Sturgeon's going to be very upset with that after getting into bed with the Greens.
Well, Nicolas
or the
Sturgeon, I
Greens
think,
getting him into bed.
isn't she already upset because she hasn't been invited to the sort of top table? Because basically, COP26 is a British conference run by Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister.
right, yeah.
She's simply the mayor of Edinburgh, as far as they're concerned.
Indeed, devolution was a mistake.
Yeah, you can
I
sit.
agree.
You can sit in Butte House and you know, be angry about it and you know drink whiskey. But basically, yeah. So Extinction Rebellion have taken it upon themselves to completely and utterly disrupt people's lives. And I was thinking this last night. I said to this guy because at one point I thought I'm gonna have to get out and kill someone here because I was so angry.
I couldn't believe
Because
it.
you know I'd been out quite a lot. I just wanted to get home.
Yeah.
I said there'll be people here sitting in cars who need to get home to see their kids because they're young and they go to bed at 7 o'clock. They won't be able to see their kids before they go to bed. People trying to deliver food.
Yep.
People trying to deliver all sorts of things. People in taxis. People trying to make a living. And it was gridlock for at least 2 hours.
We had to wade through them this morning to get in here as well.
Yeah.
They're all out there on the bridge.
But what is it? What the hell is it for? They've changed their act slightly. They now say, rather than saying we must get rid of all carbon, they now say, oh, you know, we just have to do whatever we can do. And I've noticed that there's a slight change. I don't know why, but they've basically started saying, oh, well, if only you could, you know, cycle to work 1 day a week, or if only you could give up eating red meat.
Well, it's
or,
because they know they're putting people off.
Yeah.
I think they should be prescribed as a terrorist organisation.
Yeah.
Because they prevent ambulances, doctors...
I'd be happy
I
with
think that's
some
a bit extreme.
From getting through to... Oh, well. Go on.
Well, I worry about the government's clampdown on protest. We have to have a fine balance.
That I get. But when they are
Yeah, but a
preventing
protest
people
is a
from getting the
moving.
support that they
I
need.
would say a protest should be considered to be a moving, say a march, right?
Yes.
If you're marching down a street and you have to close that street off, with the authority of the police, that's fine. But then the street opens up again when you've walked past it. What you can't do is say, we want to lock this street down for a week.
Yeah.
because that's the mistake the police made
It's
the last time
unreasonable.
around. And it's unreasonable. And, you know, in this day and age, you can't stop people from going about their business. People will be losing their jobs because they can't get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Although I am pleased to see that the police seem to actually be trying this time.
Well,
at
they
least.
are. But I believe that's entirely down to me. Because it was only last week that I said, you know, the last time they had their two protests, the Extinction Rebellion law, apparently cost us 56 million quid.
Oh.
The police, right? So which I said, well, hang on, they didn't do anything. Why are we paying them 56 million to stand around and dance with these members of Extinction Rebellion and skateboard with them?
Mm-hmm.
Surely that
I take
shouldn't
back
cost
what I
anything.
said. That much taxpayers' money. They're a
56
terrorist
million.
organisation.
So I'm like, if we're going to spend that kind of money, then let's see some action.
Yeah.
You know, let's see them cracking some heads.
Well, they
That's
weren't
what I'd
today.
like
They
to
just
see.
stood there watching them, gawping at them.
Yeah.
But they bring these big contraptions and just plonk them there. And
Here's a pink
impossible to
table so that
move.
we can all sit around the table. Well, why don't you just get lost?
They're this like jungle gym type thing.
Yeah. Or set it up in a field somewhere.
Oh, have a shower and get a job, honestly.
Yeah. I know.
Honestly.
It really is. Well, I'm pleased to see that you're in entire agreement with me. So those are the first three. Calvin, here's your second.
My next one is TUC, the
Yes.
Trades Union Congress. You know my thoughts on trade unions. I think Maggie Thatcher should have finished the job she started and abolished them because they're nothing but trouble. But these guys want us to have more public holidays, which sounds amazing.
We've already got loads.
Who
haven't we?
doesn't want more bank holidays?
Well, I don't.
We've
But
got
who's gonna
10,
pay for
right?
it?
Hey?
We've got 10?
I think we've got 10. They want to have 12.
The cost to our entire economic system would be too much to bear. After we're recovering from what is essentially the worst economic crisis in a long time, thanks to the government's decisions around COVID.
Yeah, also it's just a middle class thing, isn't it, really? If
Well, it
you
used to be
don't
the
really
point-
get bank holidays.
Well, no, the point about bank holidays used to be that it was actually a working class thing. It's like in Scotland when I was living there, they used to have a thing called Glasgow Fair because it was when all the shipyards were still working and they used to basically close the shipyards for a week and everyone in Glasgow would go for a holiday down to Rothsay and have a bit of, you know, sun and sand and take your bucket and spade and everybody would be off for the same week, which is quite sensible. But of course, some of them still want to keep it in Glasgow City Council, even though the shipyards aren't really there anymore. And you go, well, they don't really need a week off from a very manual, hard day's work. They actually could continue working.
But yeah, it was a
from
socialist
home.
idea, but now, you know, with everyone expecting everything delivered and washed and cleaned,
Well, it's like all
whatever
these
on
people
a
who
bank
say-
holiday anyway, it's not
Yeah, it's
really.
not like all these people that say, oh, but I'm quite happy to work from home. It's like, well, how did you get your Ricardo delivery? You know, how did you
Quite.
get the post through the door?
Indeed.
You know, how did you buy that latest bit of makeup or whatever it is?
I
You know,
hate
so-
that one though. If everyone worked from home, what would happen to the high street? What would
Yeah.
happen to the cities? If
Well, we
people
can
aren't
see what's
commuting
happening.
anymore,
We
they're
can
dying.
see. They are. Somebody sent me a picture the other day of, I think it was Rickmansworth, which is up in sort of North London on the Metropolitan line. And the whole high street is a ghost town. There's literally no shops open because partly you can't park there either because the mad parking zealots have made it impossible to park anywhere near a shop.
Yep.
And it's literally, everything's just shuttered up. And the
Not to
community's
mention,
gone.
if we're all working from home, we can work from anywhere, and this is how our jobs get exported to offshore companies.
And Latvia.
Cheap labour.
Not
Latvia
not to pick
specifically.
Latvia out of the air, but actually people in Latvia are being hired now by British companies to do work from home
People are
because
doing
they'll do it
themselves
for
out
half
of
the
a job.
money.
They don't realise they're doing themselves out of a job. That's the worst thing about it.
And the same goes for the four extra holidays that they want, because apparently they say, oh, other countries in Europe have got better bank holidays, but I don't think you really need them. I mean,
They
only
have
people,
less annual leave allowance.
Yeah.
We have a really generous, in general.
most people
holiday
have a
allowance.
decent holiday allowance. Very few people now have less than a month, do they?
Isn't it in America you basically have no holiday allowance? apart
When I
from
lived in America, people started work, and for the first 2 years, they were only allowed 1 week a year.
1 week. Imagine that.
They'd be
So do you
absolute
just
revolution.
leave your job, have a holiday, and then get a new job?
Well, you could, or if you stay there for 2 years, then you get 2 weeks. But a lot of people in America used to. But the thing they have there is a very much of a kind of a weekend culture, though.
Right.
So I don't know what it's like now. I haven't lived there for a long time, but you know, a lot of people sort of will take off early Friday,
Yeah.
come back a bit later on a Monday, that kind of thing. But I mean, for me, the whole idea of national bank holidays is fine if you're working a tough old job and you want to have a long weekend. But we don't need May bank holiday. We don't need August bank holiday. What do we need them for?
No, we don't.
There's no point. And I mean, all that happens is that everyone who works in the public sector just doesn't go in. And they usually take Friday off. I mean, the trains, for example, this weekend, loads of trains completely on the missing list because of the bank holiday weekend. So loads of drivers not available, sick, pinged, you know. I talked to Simon Calder today on the show. He was on a train from Penzance to Paddington, which had been reduced
wow.
from 10 carriages to 5 because apparently they didn't have enough staff. And you're going, well, how does that affect the length of the train?
And there was demand
There's
for
a
this
guy-
train to be running
He
full.
said, I said, what? He said, I'm sitting in first class. He said, I said, well, what if somebody comes and tries to charge you extra money? He said, they literally won't be able to get through the carriage. It's that busy. They'd have to clamber over people to get to me.
He shouldn't really have admitted that.
Why?
What, stealing a first-class seat?
Well, it's the only place you can get a seat.
Stealing.
Oh,
A
yeah.
bit much.
Hardly stealing. I mean, I'm in favour of having no first-class seats on
Oh
trains.
no, it's important.
I don't think it is.
Why not?
Because, well, why should Angela Rayner just be able to sit in there?
Just because
You
of
know,
that,
just 'cause
Angela
it's-
Rayner.
I don't want her in there. I don't. Well, why should you pay a ludicrous amount of money to sit in a carriage which other people can either upgrade their ticket to, or and also you don't get anything extra
Such a
anymore.
socialist
Well, you
he
do.
is.
No, you get a nice meal. You get a reclining
joking.
chair. You get a much more comfortable journey.
I've never had a nice meal for a long time
Well,
on a
that's
train.
It's gone downhill. I'll give you
Yeah,
that.
you do, I mean, I used to take
gone
the
a
train
lot
from Pewsey in
Right.
the southwest of this country up to London when I used to work for newspapers, and you could get in the dining car for breakfast, and it was fantastic, right?
Oh, dining
You'd sit
cars.
there, white tablecloth, toast, tea, bacon, eggs, brilliant. And you could do it with a second-class ticket, even though technically it was first class, but you could do it because as long as you were eating, they couldn't kick you out. So you just keep ordering more toast, you know. And it was
Always
brilliant.
hacking the
I guess
But
you
there's-
need the extra space, to be fair to you,
I do need the
perhaps.
extra
but there's
space,
nothing.
absolutely.
But there's nothing like that now.
The
There
problem
is
is
no.
first class isn't very first class.
It's really
anymore.
not.
Yeah.
It's really not. And it used
But
to be
the
as
economy
well.
is even worse.
Well, the whole train system in this
It's just-
country is knackered. It needs a serious overhaul. I mean, I'm actually of the becoming of the opinion again, and we might as well start nationalising stuff again.
I think we need to make the roads better first.
Well, the roads are knackered as well. Everything is. There is nothing really in this country that works. People keep saying, all you do is moan. Well, you tell me one government department that's any good. I mean, Border Force yesterday, oh, it's a bank holiday, so we better not have anybody on. Even though loads of people are coming back from holiday, let's make them queue for 5 hours at Heathrow. Really?
We need a government with imagination.
I was just
All
trying
this
to think
government
of-
does is ban and tax.
That's true. Ban, tax, and that's it.
That is
Well,
it.
just encourage
Take away our
people to
liberties.
do things which are going to help as opposed to do things which are not going to help. You know, weekend travel on a bank holiday weekend, less trains, really?
Yeah, it
Why?
doesn't make sense.
You know, and they use the old argument, well, people don't go to work on trains so much anymore. Well, no, they don't go to work, they go on holiday on trains.
And they're so bloody expensive.
Yeah,
That's
they are.
another
That's
matter.
exactly right. I mean, it's cheaper to fly to, New York than it is to get a train from London to Bath.
Yeah, like on
You know?
train like London to Manchester, wherever.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway, so very good. The TEC, I like that. I think we put them in. Apparently, workers in England and Wales get just 8 bank holidays a year, according to what I'm looking at here. And in Scotland, they get 11. So obviously, they love it in Scotland.
Well, they
Bank
would,
holidays.
wouldn't
Yeah.
they? They would.
Romania, Lithuania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Finland, and Cyprus, 15 days each.
15 days each, but I imagine they have less annual leave
Yes.
Yeah.
in general. Although, I have to remember, some people don't have any annual leave.
New Zealand, 11. We'll talk about New Zealand in a minute. Who's your second nominee?
It's going to be the NHS,
Excellent.
or whoever decides who gets hired by the NHS, or whoever decides their
Another
schemes and
public
campaigns.
sector business that doesn't work. Again.
Another one that doesn't work. Now, it's not just. It's not. I'm not going to bang on about NHS reform.
Thank God for that.
This time, this is more about their diversity and inclusion
Yes.
campaigns. It was revealed on Twitter, as it is every now and again, just how much money we're spending on a variety of diversity, inclusion, and equality stuff.
Oh, yes.
And so.
65, 70,000 a pop as well.
Yeah, so
Quite-
up
quite
to
expensive.
£75,000 a year, I think. So compare that to the average nurse, which is about 32,000, 33,000. You can see that it's a lucrative job to be in
Yeah.
if you can get one.
It is.
Now,
And what
the
do
thing
they
is,
do?
there are so many variations of these people. There's, the head of diversity, inclusion,
Yeah.
and equality, the officer of diversity, inclusion, the manager, the
Assistant to the director.
at every different
Yeah.
wage band, all right? And this industry is just everywhere. And I just don't think that the taxpayer should be funding this kind of thing any longer, particularly as the NHS, of course, is always asking for more money.
Yeah.
So I would like to see a lot of that money redirected to, well, frontline staff might be nice.
How about some more GPs?
Yeah.
Because apparently there's a shortage.
Well, quite.
Because so many of them are going part-time, so they can make more money.
Yeah.
They're not actually going part-time, they're going part-time for the NHS so they can make more
Yeah.
money as
Don't get me
locals.
started on GPs. They're not going back to the clinics. They're working remotely, wanting you
Yeah.
to diagnose yourself over Zoom.
Right.
It's outrageous.
My favourite sign was from, I think, the week before last that somebody sent me in, which actually was outside a GP surgery somewhere. It said, if you are feeling unwell, please cancel your appointment and do not enter.
Oh my God.
And you go, but it's a doctor.
What are you
It's a
here
doctor's surgery. You don't go to the doctor when you're fine.
No.
So at a time when GPs aren't even seeing their patients face to face, the NHS is looking to hire these diversity inclusion officers at these ridiculous salaries. And you asked a good question. What do they actually do?
I'm not being obtuse. I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I don't want my doctors to be diverse. I want them to be really good.
Do they make sure the NHS is already diverse? It has all
Also,
different
maybe-
ethnicities,
well, maybe-
backgrounds, languages, whatever.
Yeah, maybe they just want to disappoint as many different people from as many different kind of backgrounds as possible when they tell them, sorry, we can't see you, or you'll have to wait 3 years.
I'd love to see you apply for one of these jobs.
You'd have to wait for 3 years. Well, I would get one, would I? Simple.
No, definitely not.
When did you last work? Talk radio. That's it. Thank you very much indeed.
Straight white male.
But I'm
Yeah.
worried, these people, what have they studied at university to get this job? Because presumably it's a graduate role.
Oh, it'll be an entire industry again, as you were saying earlier, where they've come from the diversity jobs somewhere else. I don't know, Bath and West City Council, and then you go, fancy a job at the NHS, get an extra 10 grand. Absolutely, why not? Indeed.
But also, a lot of these jobs are like all around the country where the cost of living isn't as high as it is down here in London.
No.
So these salaries, they'll allow you to live a pretty damn good life.
Oh, it's a racket.
No, it totally
75
is.
grand up in wherever this job was. It's ridiculous.
It is, and it's a total waste of public money.
Well, yes.
But that's all they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, there are some good bits in the NHS, and there will be plenty of people that are shaking their heads at us and going, "Oh, terribly," sort of slagging off the NHS.
That's
but
it.
they are.
You can't talk about it.
There's so much of it; it doesn't work.
It's such bad optics. But you see this throughout all the government departments. I mean, they all have diversity and inclusion officers for absolutely everything.
And you know what's going to happen, right? We're going to get to sort of November, and there's going to be the usual clarion call for it's only 24 hours to save the NHS.
Oh, yes.
There's no more beds.
Lockdowns.
Lockdowns. We're going to be in a terrible state. Don't overwhelm the NHS hospitals. Save the NHS. Nobody's done anything since last year to
Well,
fix
not
it.
just last year. They've been saying this for decades
Yeah.
now, haven't they? It's not fit
You
for
can find the
purpose.
same front
And people-
page in the Daily Mirror.
Of course you can.
Pretty much for about the last 30 years.
But it's being put on this pedestal as like the cult of this country, the NHS, and we cannot do anything but worship it. Go out there and clap on your doorstep for the NHS. It's ridiculous.
I'm worried about flu season. Not just because people are going to
Flu
get very
doesn't exist
poorly, but
anymore.
because the government are going to
Well, nobody got it last
clamp
year.
down. Pardon?
Apparently nobody got
the
flu
flu.
last year.
Well, yeah, but
cured.
that's why they're saying that it's going to be even worse this
Why?
winter. I don't know, a build-up, people go
No,
face to face
but again, you see, there's no science for that. If there wasn't any last year, why would
question
there
the
be some
science,
this
Mike.
year? Why would there be? No, I just need someone to explain it. If there was no flu last year, where did it go?
Yeah.
Or maybe it didn't go.
Or maybe it got marked down as COVID.
Maybe it got marked down as COVID. Now, there's a funny thing. Do you think that could be
I
possible?
can't quite imagine that.
That's
happened.
conspiracy.
Imagine if that was
I'll
the
not
truth.
engage with this.
And then this year they don't count it as COVID. But why wouldn't they? Because the people who like to count things as COVID would like to continue. Maybe they'll be fighting over it.
Well, I
Maybe they'll
read
be
that
like,
because-
the
Could be
flu
both. Could be
versus
flu
the
and
COVID,
COVID deaths.
statisticians fighting in the street. No, that's ours. Bring us those.
Was that your Michael Gove impression?
40,000 deaths. Yeah. Do you know, I thought about putting Michael Gove in Plank of the Week, but actually I think he did himself a favour
I quite liked it.
by doing that. The only thing I would say about him is that he should have been more aware of the fact that he's been the guy telling us all not to go anywhere.
Well, quite.
And he's been the guy telling us that we should have vaccine passports for nightclubs. He didn't look like he was that bothered, did he?
He's trying to make himself more likeable.
After
I wonder
a
why
few-
he would want to do that.
Well, I mean, he couldn't be any less likeable, could he? Just ask his wife.
Do you think that was a
You know.
PR exercise? Surely
Absolutely.
not.
Come on.
Well, he must have known.
His clubs on a regular basis.
He must have known. He must have known
Where's
that
he
would
been?
be captured. I mean, the idea that he comes from Aberdeen, really? How often did he go there?
Also, why did Dominic Cummings destroy everybody in the cabinet except for Michael Gove?
Because he's best buddies with him.
There's a question.
Who's going to replace Boris Johnson?
It's not Michael Gove. He's not popular enough. He's too unpopular.
Well, I hope they come from the backbenchers.
I think they should make Tom
Not
Tugendhat
2019
Prime
and take
Minister. I think that would be good. Right, I'm going to move it away into a sporting arena for the next one, but it's not really
Sporting?
sport. Yeah, I know you're not a big fan of sport, are you? Are you?
I was actually a downhill ski racer, so...
Oh, what?
So I told you, it's not really a sport.
Sorry, what?
Fully clothed, wearing long shoes, and with 2 sticks.
Okay,
And there's some
I
glue
wasn't
vine at
ever
the
a
bottom of the
champion.
hill, and there's a glue vine hut at the bottom of the hill. It's not really the Olympics, is it? I mean, I know they have it in the Olympics, but anyway. No, this is Formula
Yeah,
One.
the whole Winter
which some
Olympics.
people also say isn't really a sport either, because you sit in a car. But do you know what happened at the weekend? They had the Belgian Grand Prix, right? And it was very wet. Very, very wet indeed. So wet, in fact, that you couldn't really see anything. And so they started the race off, and all the cars kind of went around very slowly, like they do. But they put the safety car out, which is what they do when they're not sure that it's safe to go too quickly. And they then went for 2 laps around the track with the safety car, quite slowly, then declared the race to be over and handed the prize to the guy who was in the front. And it was like, it wasn't a
Outrageous.
race. And even Lewis Hamilton, who I'm not a great big fan of, was calling the Formula One organisers greedy because he said they should have given all the money back to the punters, because normally it's a 50-odd lap race, right? They saw nothing. It literally went on for 5 minutes, and then they
did 3 laps.
They did 3 laps, and they gave the prize to the guy who was already at the front. But nobody had actually overtaken anybody. You're not allowed to overtake while you're...
If they called it off, Mike, would they have to give refunds to the people?
Well, I think if they'd called it off, they should have given the refunds anyway. But the thing that's wrong as well is that they've awarded the points, because you get points for winning and coming second and all that. They've awarded the points to all the people who weren't in a race.
That's outrageous.
It's completely and utterly ridiculous. And you know, when Lewis Hamilton's calling people greedy, you know, you
well,
really
have you seen his latest get-up?
No.
Oh, he's been taking selfies of himself in some interesting clothing.
I'm starting to quite like Lewis Hamilton because so many people dislike him.
You're
And that's
so
kind of the way I
contrary.
am. The more people hate him, the more I quite like him. Because, you know, after all, he's a brilliant athlete, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty hard to do what he does.
I don't know, isn't it just about the car?
See, I can show you a picture of the race. There it is there. So, I mean, you know, it's a bit worse than going on the A303.
Why couldn't they just do it do another day?
I think they should have made him race really quickly in the rain. I think it would be much more fun, you know. And
Yeah,
then,
a few people would have died, but
well,
you
they
know,
wouldn't
whatever.
though. No, but they don't anymore because it's a very safe sport now.
They never die.
Not anymore. Well, they haven't for a long time.
Progress.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Formula One for the first time in a while actually have we got a sporting organisation in there.
It's good to have.
But they are ridiculously greedy, and they make so much money. And also, I mean, one of the things that annoys me about Lewis Hamilton is about his kind of green agenda, and he talks about, you know, we should all do a bit more to save the planet. I mean, this is possibly the most polluting business in the entire world. Not only do they drive very fast cars for a very long time around a circuit, they also fly everything everywhere. So they'll go from Belgium to Bahrain to Melbourne, you know, to Tokyo to Sao Paulo. I mean, all over the world with Pantechnicons full of stuff.
Yep.
And I can't imagine what their carbon footprint is. It's probably worse than the entire nation of Britain, I would imagine.
Easily. Ours is so small.
Exactly. Anyway, so who's your third?
Can I put the president in there?
President?
Joe Biden.
You certainly can.
Because it's not even a joke one. I think what he's done has destroyed the West's stance in the world. It's destroyed democracy. It's actually sent us back decades. Those poor Afghan people that we went in there to support have been left behind, neglected.
Yeah.
And he's lied outrageously, repeatedly, not taken on board the evidence that the intelligence community gathered and gave to him, and said it all will be fine, Kabul will not fall, and clearly that was not the case.
I mean, how could they get it that wrong?
So wrong.
I mean, he's been on Plank of the Week for the last 2 weeks, but he still deserves to be on it for this week, if for no other reason than checking his watch.
Oh, that was disgusting, wasn't it?
When they were taking the dead bodies of the dead Marines.
Well, that's the type of plank behaviour, isn't it?
Where have you got to be?
I mean, he's the president of the free world, right? He doesn't need to be anywhere. The plane isn't going without him. No. The helicopter isn't leaving without him, you know?
But this is your appointment. This is where you're meant to be right now.
And falling asleep in that press conference, which he definitely did.
Yeah. Well, he's doddery. There's no doubt that he's doddery. I mean, I am not qualified to say whether he's suffering from the early stages of dementia, but he's definitely doddery.
He is,
I mean, he can barely walk from the podium to the door, and you just expect him to fall down, don't
You know who the real planks are? All the people who
voted for him.
Yeah, all the people who voted for him simply because he wasn't Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, at least abstain.
But I need to ask you both, because I cannot understand how he's actually armed an entire terrorist organisation. He's given them more military gear than most other countries have. This can't be incompetent.
Pakistan's going to help them, even if they can't do it.
I always say, can you not imagine being in that meeting where somebody would have said, well, you do realise if we do it this way, we will leave so much material and military hardware for the Taliban that they'll be more powerful than any other NATO country apart from America, which is effectively what they are. They've got more Black Hawk helicopters now than any other NATO country.
It's bonkers.
It's crazy.
But also taking
and they're all walking around dressed as Americans now. What happened to this kind of,
it doesn't
Taliban
matter
thing?
because they don't know how to use them. I think they can get Pakistan to teach them.
Oh, I think they can
get
use them.
some people to teach them.
Yeah.
I think they'll find a way.
Also, it's a rather kind of colonialist thing to say, isn't it? And it's funny enough, usually the people saying that are the ones who don't like colonialism, saying, oh, they don't know how to use them. Well, how do you know that? What, you mean because they're backward people from the land that you don't understand?
I think colonialism would have been the solution, actually. Instead of going in there and doing all this nation building, showing them how to use our weapons and then leaving them to it and abandoning them, we should have made Afghanistan a territory of the British Empire.
But wasn't there the humiliating image out today of the Taliban in our embassies? They were
in the police training college.
Oh, it was the
police training college where they've got a sort of an old-fashioned Metropolitan Police hat and a state trooper's hat from the United States.
That was harrowing.
Yeah, and they're all
and humiliating.
And humiliating, and not only all of that is true, but also something that I don't think was ever discussed, although I'm told it was known around about 2010. The place is full of lithium. They've got the biggest deposits of some of the most valuable minerals in the world in Afghanistan. And we've just handed all that, not only to the Taliban, but to China. Well done, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Top work.
Yeah.
Absolute plank.
Absolute plank.
I mean, you can't,
plank of the year.
You can't. I mean,
Plank
you
of the
can't
year.
argue.
Even
that.
beats Prince Harry.
We may have to. Yeah, there hasn't been much from. Well, there has been a new chapter, hasn't there? Maybe we'll have to carry Harry over from last week. There's been a new chapter in the Harry and Meghan saga, hasn't there?
What have they done now?
Well, they've updated the Finding Freedom book.
Oh, God.
And so Omid Scobie, who never speaks to them and who has not at all been instructed by them in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, he's not their PR mouthpiece, no.
He's not at all their PR mouthpiece, but they've written all about, their reaction to the Oprah Winfrey interview and all the things that came out of it because they've had to update the book.
But it sounds like the Queen's putting her foot down, right? She's getting the lawyers involved.
Well, they
Maybe.
blamed her. They said the Queen didn't take ownership of the race scandal.
Yes.
Imagine saying that about your grandmother, even
It's
if
just
she
horrendous,
weren't
isn't
the
it?
Queen.
I know. It's just unbelievable. So, yeah, that's
Grandma,
convinced
you
me.
didn't take ownership of this
That's
scandal.
convinced me. Harry and Meghan, back in. So who's your final one?
Who was my final one? Oh, it was the police. Well, specifically,
The whole police force.
Cressida.
The Metropolitan Police.
Cressida.
Yeah.
No, the police have done a better job than normal policing London and the protests recently, so they'll give them some kudos for that. That does not mean that their leadership is in any way less woke or out of touch with public opinion on certain things. Now, this is the slight controversy that's been, in the press about their gender-neutral police outfits, police uniforms.
Yeah.
That's the
I
word.
thought they already had gender neutral
Well,
ones. don't they?
firstly, that's what I thought.
I mean,
they look pretty much the same to me. They just
do.
fit a little different on the women than the men, right?
Yeah.
What is a gender-neutral uniform? Does that not mean trousers?
Well,
Trousers.
There's been quite a lot of talk about what exactly that means because, as you said, they look pretty gender neutral to the untrained
I would
eye.
describe most police officers as gender neutral these days. It's quite hard to tell what's going on
I don't know.
there.
I've seen some very glamorous female police
Have you?
officers.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to see them on having to do night patrol. They'd get
Glamorous.
very glamorous, full of face of
Where
makeup.
do you live?
I don't know where this was.
Oh, okay. You
But
don't
it was
know.
very,
Right.
very glamorous. What, you're suggesting I'm lying?
No, I'm saying you might be mistaken. It's
Lipstick
not the
and
same.
everything. I'm not mistaken. I know a police
Don't
officer when I
assume their
see
gender,
one.
though,
Are
Emily.
you sure they weren't just dressed up for a night out in police uniforms? People do that.
Okay, well, they looked like they were patrolling and they didn't look like they were on a
Just wear
hen do.
strippers or something.
They didn't look like
Are
they
you
were
sure?
strippers either.
What about the police cars as well? Because they've had a new uniform, haven't they?
Yeah, that's not gender neutral though, is it?
It's not.
That's specific to, what is it, a lifestyle, would you say?
Ooh, I don't know.
Anyway, can you tell you why I think they're planks?
Yeah, go on.
Because it's not because of gender neutral uniform.
Right.
It's more that why on earth is this a priority? I mean,
And how much money are they spending on
war
these
on
gender
drugs,
neutral? Yeah.
war on
Stabbings,
gun
going
crime,
up.
stabbings, all of this.
Terrorism.
Well, I mean,
Apparently highest terror alert of all
yeah,
time.
we've gone up on the terrorist alert. Obviously, we've got all the protests going on. And this is what they're doing a consultation on.
Yeah.
A consultation.
Hard to believe, isn't it? It is
Consultation.
hard to believe. But again, here we are, another government department stroke public sector organisation that's not working.
But it's just
We need
so
to go
much
back to
about
basics.
this. I don't know what it is. And identity politics, gender, race. It's just
Awareness.
everywhere. Awareness. It's like, well, can you be a bit more aware of the fact that I don't know? My grandma got robbed the other day.
Or somebody's car was stolen, or
Yeah,
somebody's
they
bicycle
don't
was
care
stolen.
about stolen cars.
No,
they
they
just
don't.
write them off.
They don't need to be virtuous, do they? So why are they virtue signalling? They just need to stop crime.
Well, they need to be virtue signalling inside their own organisation. That's the problem. They want a virtue signal to everybody inside the place that they work.
To what end?
Because it makes them feel good somehow. Because some idiot will walk into a room and go, what are we doing about gender neutral clothing? And somebody will go, oh, we better get some.
We're not. We're taking drugs off the streets.
Yeah.
There was some police force in Yorkshire or somewhere that spent 15 grand, I think, on another sort of Equality and Inclusion Day or Black Lives Matter Day or something like that. It's just like, what on earth are they doing with our money? Can you just stop spending our money on this stuff? Just stop it.
I know. Unbelievable. It's a
It
good
is
one, though.
unbelievable.
My final one is Jacinda Ardern, who has also been in the list for a couple. I think she missed out last week, but she was in it very recently for that ludicrous press conference that she gave, in which she decided to tell everybody not to talk to their neighbours on the basis
God,
that
yeah.
might in some way spread COVID. This is a woman who has failed miserably at controlling COVID, even though everybody thought at the beginning that she was doing the right thing because she was stopping anyone from doing anything, massive lockdown, shut down the country, nobody could go to. The thing I find quite amusing, sorry, just because I have this kind of sense of humour, is that apparently one person arrived at the airport with COVID, and now everybody's getting it. And you kind of go, well, this is the point. And this is now why they're calling it the Hobbit Kingdom now, because I don't think they'll ever be able to reopen as long as they've got her in charge.
No.
Because according to the latest lockdown, right, which was done because they found one case, so they decided to completely lock down both islands, because it's a two-island nation, both islands quite separate from one another. The one case was on the North Island, but she shut the South Island as well, even though it's separated by a body of water and nobody's travelling, right?
This is a god complex.
It really is. And by Thursday of last week, the coronavirus outbreak had grown, despite the lockdown, by 68 cases.
Imagine that.
Taking the total number of cases to 277. However, one previously reported case has been reclassified. I mean, this is how ridiculous
They're
they've become.
reclassifying single cases.
After being confirmed as a false positive.
Oh my God.
And you go,
No.
sorry? I mean, have you gone completely insane?
Now, I know that the Australian public are getting very angry and in support for their,
Well, some of them
freedom
are, but not
parties.
all of them.
Yeah, not all of them. But I have no idea what the public mood is in New Zealand. Do you?
No.
Are they getting angry with this, or
Well,
are they just sort of, thinking
I don't
it's the
think
right
they
thing
are.
to do?
I mean, most of what I see is only from there on social media, and obviously
Yeah.
it may not be the right picture. But quite a lot of people are in support of her, and quite a lot of people think she's doing a great job.
She's
I think it's a bit
useless.
I think it's a bit like Nicolas Sturgeon. It depends where you look. Some people think she's brilliant. Other people think she's killing the place off. But she's like, I'm not fussed, was her words when she was asked about debating and comparing different countries' strategies. Not fussed. So we'll just do what I tell you to do.
So arrogant.
This is the same woman who said a few weeks ago, and this is when she got on the last time as well, that basically any statements about COVID that don't come from the government, you shouldn't listen to them. Only the government
Just
knows the
listen to
truth.
our official
So
propaganda.
just listen to our official news about COVID. Everything else you should not read, you should not watch, and you should not be involved with.
I really do think this generation of, Western politicians, if you can call Australia and New Zealand the West, are just appalling.
I mean, I'm never going to
Trudeau
New
with
Zealand.
she session.
I know.
She recovery?
Oh yeah.
I
yeah,
mean,
what was that all about?
for God's sake.
What was that all about? What's wrong with him?
I don't know, but I genuinely think if he wasn't easy on the eye, he'd be out of there already. I think he has a lot of female support, perhaps.
And the other funny thing about Australia and New Zealand is it says here that on Wednesday, 3 million doses of the vaccine have been given out, but 3/4 of the population over 30 have now either had a dose or are booked in to receive one. So they're quite far behind on the vaccine front as well. But I just find that it's very clear that you cannot lock a country down and stop COVID from spreading. It's
work.
very obvious. So why do they keep doing it?
Because they have to do something. We're obsessed. We're afraid of death at this point. We cannot relate to a virus that we can actually live with.
Yeah.
Project Fear is working too well.
So we've now got 9 nominations plus Harry and Meghan. All you got to do now is whittle them down to 3 in the traditional form.
The traditional
Would you like
manner.
to choose Calvin's before he
Yes.
starts banging on about something else?
I said I bang on about something too.
I know, you tried to mitigate
I
it, but
did,
the
yes.
damage was done.
I don't
I'm
like
afraid.
to hurt people's feelings.
It's not what I've heard.
I don't have feelings, it's fine.
Oh, okay. Truth comes out.
Nobody should.
It's what we suspected. Well, this is a case of remembering who you put forward, which was Emma Kennedy.
Yes.
Then you put forward
TUC.
TUC, and lastly you said
Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe. Well, you said you had Sleepy Joe the last 2. Did he win either of those?
I think he won one of them, but that doesn't mean he can't win another one. I mean, there's no reason that he can't.
I think Emma Kennedy. I think Biden is so much more than a plank. So I think I'm
You
going
think
to go
Emma
with
Kennedy?
Emma Kennedy.
That's
Because
okay.
I
I think she made
think
Plank
she's
of the
awful.
Year, end of last year. Not the Plank of the Year, but she made the top
Did she?
20. I think she did, because she was
that
quite
was fun.
active.
Plank of the year.
It was. Well, we'll do it again. Don't
Little
worry.
rotation.
Yes. Right, so my 3, Calvin,
Yep.
if you want to pick one. Formula 1, Extinction Rebellion, and what was the third one?
It doesn't matter. It's Extremist
Jacinda
Rebellion. easily.
Ardern.
Extremist Rebellion.
Extremist Rebellion?
Bunch
Okay.
of nutters need to, like I say,
Oh,
have a wash and get a
Jacinda.
job.
Well, we can make her 4th if you make a special plea,
Okay.
because the top 3 will obviously be the top 3. Right, so I get to choose yours.
Yeah, which were
I've got
the NHS.
the NHS, Zero Tolerance, and the Metropolitan Police. I think I'm going to go with the NHS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For their diversity inclusion
for,
stuff.
for not just that, but just for being generally useless.
Not the NHS, our NHS.
Yeah.
You put that RH.
Or should we just call it Save the NHS or Don't Overwhelm the NHS or God Bless the
overwhelm it.
NHS. So that leaves us with Emma Kennedy, the NHS and Extinction Rebellion for planks.
Ooh.
I would suggest Extinction Rebellion as number 1, but only because it's kind of very current for this week.
It's very
Also
current.
because it's yours.
Well, no, because I'm not like that, you see, Calvin. You see, he's obviously been listening to some other people who do this show who say, might really like stuff. I don't actually care whether I win it or not, because technically I own all of it.
Yeah, I don't
I own yours, I own hers,
Doesn't
whichever
bother
one we
with that
choose.
fancy.
It's all under my roof.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy with Extinction Rebellion because, as you say, they are timely and they'll probably have dropped off the agenda next week.
As much as I would like to make Emma Kennedy Plank of the Week, I don't want to give her that kind of
I'm
pleasure.
with you on that, absolutely.
So I'll make her 3rd and make the NHS 2nd, I think.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Do you think that works?
Yeah,
It's a pretty good
you know
list.
what I think zero tolerance with most plankish for trying to police our bookshelves, our children's bookshelves. But
Well, I can put them
I can't
4th
win
if
always.
you'd rather. You can put them 4th if you want instead of Jacinda and make her 5. We could
yeah,
do that.
Jacinda will still be trying to do her zero COVID strategy.
Well, by
then.
the time we come out with this, there'll probably be another lockdown in place. She'll have extended it by another 3 weeks.
No doubt.
Not
You
to be
know?
rude about her looks, but she does look very frightening, like a skeletal ghost.
She's not a pleasant-looking person,
No.
which is not any reason to criticise her.
I
Obviously,
don't
No.
go for the ad hominems.
we got in trouble with that before. I'm saying nothing. Anyway, never mind what she looks like. She's a complete and utter plank, and that's why she's going to come in at number 5. We'll go for zero tolerance at number 4. Number 3, Emma Kennedy. Number 2, the NHS. And for plank of the week this week, it's going to have to be Extinction Rebellion because they really are absolute and utter planks. My thanks to Calvin. My thanks to Emily. We'll see you next time.